Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is pretty much an update on where I've been, what's been going on, and it's a TTC update. If you guys have been following me, then you know that I have been trying to get pregnant with baby number 2 for quite a few months now. And today I'm going to talk to you about where I've been, and I'm honestly super nervous right now to make this video because I don't have anything, like my heart is racing. I don't have anything planned. It wasn't planned. It took me a while to make a video about what's going on or about what happened, because I just wanted to make sure I was ready to talk about it. And I just thought to myself, like, I don't know if I'll ever be ready. So I just need to update you guys. I have been getting messages from you guys asking for an update, what's going on. So I'm gonna finally talk to you guys about what happened. So today is December 16th, and I found out I was pregnant on October 30th. So I think I'm gonna show you guys first. Okay. Wait, is the lid on it? Can I look now? So after I posted that video of the maca root powder and the one before that, I already knew I was pregnant. And that's why I was so excited to film that video for you guys about the maca root powder and what I have been doing, and you know, the doctor that I went to and everything, because, and that's why I say in the video that I feel like the smoothie was effective, because I actually got pregnant that month. I started the smoothie the beginning of October, and I found out I was pregnant on October 30th, so towards the end of the month. And something, I don't know why, from the beginning when I found out I was pregnant, I was really anxious. Like, I was really, I kept thinking, like, are you serious? Like, I did not believe it. I could not believe it for a very long time. I was like, what? I was like, I'm really pregnant? I was like, oh my God. Like, I was in shock. So what I did was I called the women's center and I let them know that I was pregnant and that I wanted to make my first, an appointment. And usually how they do it is they don't make any appointments until you're about 8 weeks along. And so they scheduled my 8-week appointment, and then from there they scheduled every single OB appointment that I would have after that. But my very first OB appointment would be on the 8th week. I thought that was too long. I could not wait that long. And I was just very impatient, and I called my doctor, like my regular primary physician, and I let them know, like, hey, I just want to make sure everything's okay. I found out, I took a pregnancy test, a home pregnancy test, and it came out positive, and I have cysts, I have irregular periods, and I just want to double, triple make sure that I am actually pregnant. The doctor was very understanding, and he brought me in. He was able to get me in 2 weeks after I found out I was pregnant, versus, you know, the 8 weeks that I was gonna wait until I saw an OB. So he brought me in 2 weeks in, 2 weeks after. So he brought me in on October 13th, and I mean on November 13th. And that day I got my very first ultrasound. They did the ultrasound, and the ultrasound technician said, usually they're not allowed to tell you anything, but this ultrasound technician, she pretty much said, okay, well, there's a gestational sac, so you're pregnant, but you're probably too early because you're measuring at about 4 weeks, and we don't see anything inside the sac. So we're gonna schedule you 2 weeks from now for another appointment. So yeah, for another ultrasound. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine, you know, I'm 4 weeks along. So I didn't think anything of it, you know. They drew my blood, and the next day the doctor calls me, and he's like, hey, can you go back and get your blood work? You know, 2 days from now your levels are a little low, so we want to make sure your levels are a little low, so we just want to make sure that they're going up. We just want to make sure that the levels are going up. So I went back, got my blood drawn, and he kept calling me after that. He said, okay, well, the levels went up, so that's good. They didn't double, but they're going up, so that's good news. And I'm like, okay, well, are you concerned or anything? And, you know, they just told me, no, we're not concerned, but we just want to make sure, as long as the levels are going up, then you're fine. So I was like, okay, not worried, you know. Not physically worried, but I feel like there was always something in me that was like, there's something wrong, like something. I didn't feel pregnant in the beginning, okay? I didn't feel pregnant out. That's why I was like, it feels so surreal. I don't feel pregnant at all. The only thing, I had like sore breasts, but that's pretty much it. And I remember with my son, from the very beginning, I started having nausea. But I was like, you know what? Maybe this is it. They say every pregnancy is different, so maybe that's why. So anyways, they scheduled my 8-week appointment with my OB, with the OB office, like the women's center office, came up. And so I went to that appointment, which was supposed to be my 8 weeks, which was 2 weeks after my very first ultrasound, where they told me that I was about 4 weeks along. Then they do the ultrasound 2 weeks later, which, if we're going based off of the very first ultrasound, 2 weeks after, I'm supposed to be about 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks. So I go, and they tell me they don't see anything. Again, the uterus, my uterus was growing. The gestational sac was now bigger, and I'll show you guys pictures. I have the ultrasounds with me. It was getting bigger, but again, they didn't see anything inside at all. Like, there was nothing inside. They just no egg yolk, nothing. And so I'm like, okay, well, now that's weird. That appointment, after they told me that, I honestly, like, I just started crying, because I was like, I know that, like, there's something wrong. Like, I know there is something wrong, because if there was nothing wrong, there would be something. They would be able to see something by now. Like, I found out I was pregnant on October 30th. It is now, was it 2 weeks later? It was like the 20 something. It was like a Monday. It was like a few days before Thanksgiving. It was like the 20 something, which was 2 weeks later. And they still, it was like 2 weeks later, and they still couldn't see anything. So then after that happened, they scheduled me for another ultrasound. They scheduled me for another ultrasound for the, I have in my notes here. I'm sorry if I have to look at my notes, but they scheduled me for another ultrasound, which was gonna be I think it was gonna be 2 weeks after that, so it was gonna be like December something, like 2 weeks after that. They scheduled me for another ultrasound. But this was like this was like 2 days, this was like 3 days before Thanksgiving. Okay, so Thanksgiving lands on a Thursday. Everything's fine, you know. I told myself, like, I'm just gonna, I had hope, you know. I was like, everything's gonna be okay, like everything's fine. I have irregular periods, this is normal. You know, my levels are going up, so there's a baby growing, but you know, it's just too early. The baby's too small, they can't see the baby yet. So then Thanksgiving weekend passes, and on Monday, right after Thanksgiving, that Monday, I used the bathroom, and when I wiped, there was like brown discharge, like really dark brown discharge, which I freaked out because I was like, this is dried up blood. But I was looking on Google. I started going on Google, and I was like, you know, what's going on? I'm pregnant. There's like this dark brown discharge coming out. Like, what's going on? And everything that I read said normal. It's fine. It's normal to have dark brown discharge when you're pregnant, especially when you're early, because it can mean that either you did tear or something during implantation, and the blood is barely making its way out, or you know, it can mean so many things. But everything that I read just kept saying that it was normal. So I was like, okay, well, okay, well then it's normal, you know. Then the next day, again in the morning, right after I was teaching my classes, I used the bathroom and I wiped again, and again I had more mucus. It was mucus with like dark blood, and then like some tints of fresh red blood. And that's when I freaked out. And I was like, okay, this is not normal. This is not okay. I'm pregnant. I'm not supposed to be bleeding. So I went to the ER. And I let them know what was going on. They did an ultrasound. They drew my blood. They did another ultrasound in the ER, and once again the ultrasound was blank. Like, they couldn't find anything in there. And this was already a week, almost a week. Yeah, a week. Excuse me. It was a week after the second ultrasound, which by then I should have been like about 7 weeks now. If we're going based off the very first ultrasound that I got, where I was measured at 4 weeks, I was already like 7 weeks. But by then there was supposed to be something there, and there was nothing there. So I was confused. I did not know what was going on. The ER doctor did not know what was going on, because she said, well, your levels are going up. She's able to see all my, you know, my records and everything, because I kept getting a lot of blood work every 2 days. My poor veins, my arms were bruised for days, because I kept getting blood work every 2 days. They just wanted to make sure that my levels were going up, and they were. And this is what the ER doctor was telling me. She's like, well, we don't see a baby yet. So she said, you could still, like, there's still a possibility that you could still be too early. So again, I had hope, because they would tell me that, like, there's still a possibility that you could still be too early. So I had hope, and I was thinking, okay, well then that's fine. You know, I'm just gonna wait then, you know, I'm just gonna wait. And that was on like a Tuesday, I think. Yeah, Tuesday. That was on a Tuesday. And then on a Thursday, which was Thursday the 5th, I believe. Thursday the 5th. Again, I used the bathroom, and there is like a blood clot. Like, it was like not big. It was like this small. It was like this small. But it was a blood clot. And again, 2 days later, I'm back in the ER, because to me that's not normal. You know, it's like why? You should not be having blood clots when you're pregnant. So I was worried sick. You know, I'm thinking, like, what's going on here? Like, why can't you just give me answers? I go back to the hospital, they draw my blood again, my levels are again going up. So the doctor comes, they do another ultrasound. There's no baby in the sac, but the sac is growing. And she tells me she's puzzled. She doesn't know. She can't tell me that it's the beginning of a miscarriage because my levels are continuing to go up. So she can't really rule it a miscarriage until your levels start going down, or they see that your levels are declining. So I'm like, okay, so then what do I do? Like, what's going on? Like, what are the next steps? Like, is this something that I can fix? Is this something that where I can be on bed rest? And like, you know, so by this point, the doctor, she put me on bed rest, and by this point, the doctor, she put me on bed rest, and she was like, you know, just rest, like just rest. And so that is pretty much what I did. I rested. My mom came over, she helped me clean the house, she helped me cook, she helped me with the baby, she helped me with everything, and I was just resting. And I did notice that as long as I was laying down, I wasn't bleeding, but if I were to get up to use the bathroom, to go eat anything, I would start bleeding. And I was just bleeding like throughout the day, you know, randomly throughout the day there was just blood coming out. And it wasn't like gushing or anything, but it was just like every time I would wipe, there was always blood. So after that happened, I had another appointment on December 6th. On December 6th, I had another appointment, and this is the appointment where everything just felt like I had lost hope. Like, I lost hope because they did yet another ultrasound. Once again, the ultrasound came back abnormal, obviously, because there was nothing in the sac. My levels were still up. To my understanding at that time, my levels were still up, but I was bleeding, and I didn't know what was going on. So that was the very first day, after all these ER visits, after all these calls, after going back and forth to get blood work done, after all of this of wondering what is it that's happening, what's going on, can somebody give me answers? Like, is there something that I can, where I can save my pregnancy? Is there something that I can do? I finally was able to see an OB. I went to my appointment that day. They drew blood, they did an ultrasound. They said, well, depending on what your ultrasound looks like, then you'll either see the doctor or you'll go home. They did the ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech didn't say anything to me. She walked out of the room, and I knew that if she were to come back to tell me that I was going to see the doctor that day, I knew that it was going to be bad news. Like, I just knew that I'm going to see the doctor because she's going to break it down to me, you know? So then she tells me, you know, she comes back and she's like, okay, well, the doctor wants to see you today. She's going to go over your ultrasound with you. And so they call me in, and I'm waiting for the doctor, and she comes in and she starts talking to me. She says, you know, how are you feeling? And she's like, are you still bleeding? And I tell her, yeah. I tell her everything that's happening. And she said, I'm afraid that I think that you're having an ectopic pregnancy. And I was like, well, you know, what makes you think that? And she said, because your levels keep going up. Like, your levels are going up. She said they're not doubling, but they're going up. So, and you're bleeding. So, you know, we can't say it's a miscarriage unless your levels are going down, but your levels are going up. She said the only thing I can think of is that your levels are going up because there's a baby, but the baby is not growing where it's supposed to be. It's growing in your fallopian tubes. And so she starts talking to me about options. Pretty much I had no options. Okay, pretty much she said, you have to make a decision. She's like, either you keep waiting, you wait it out, She's like, but if it is an ectopic pregnancy, this could be really dangerous for you. It's life-threatening. And, or we can give you a shot. She said, or we can, or we can give you a shot to pass everything. Pretty much, she was telling me that to just like abort the baby, you know? Everything just happened. So that day when she told me that, like, I was not expecting that at all. I was not expecting her to tell me this. I was thinking, if this is a miscarriage, it's gonna happen on its own. You know, I'm already bleeding. It's gonna happen on its own. But when she tells me, like, pretty much puts the ball on my court, on my side of the court, and she tells me, like, you have to make the decision to abort your baby or not, it just like it hit me, you know? I'm like, what? Like, I can't do that. You know, you're giving me, you're telling me that this is pretty much my only option. Either I wait it out and I risk ending up in the ER for a ruptured fallopian tube, or I just get rid of the baby. But in my mind at that moment, I'm still thinking, like, what if I'm just still too early? Like, what if there is a baby? What if my baby is in there? Like, by this point, I had been doing so much research on Google, you guys, like on so many, and I read so many success stories of women who were like, they couldn't find my baby, they found it until I was 7 weeks. Oh, they found mine until I was 8 weeks. You know, this happened, that happened, and that side of me was still thinking, like, no, like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna take this shot. I'm gonna wait. Maybe you can find it later. You know, maybe it's gonna show up later. And then I have the doctor telling me in this side, like, it's very dangerous for you if you wait. And this was on a Friday, and I told her, I said, what if I just wait the weekend? Like, what if I think about it and I just wait the weekend, and if nothing major happens, or if my levels start going down by Monday, then I will do it on Monday. Because at this point, you guys, nothing was for sure. This was all just an assumption. This was just her, like, a guess, like, oh, I think this is what's happening. But it wasn't like, oh, this is what's happening, you know. And they drew my blood that day, that morning, before I saw the doctor, before they gave me this option. So I called Junior, obviously, and I talked it over with him, and I said, look, this is what they're telling me. My mom was right there with me, and I talked to my mom about it. And my mom, you know, being a mom, obviously she was looking out for my health, my safety. And she was telling me, like, mija, like, pretty much you have to accept reality, you know. Like, you found out you were pregnant October 30th. Like, look at how deep we are into, we're in December now, and they still don't see a baby. Like, even if you were super early, you know, in October, like, they would have been able to see even a yolk sac by now, and they don't see that, you know. So in that moment, I felt like that was my only option. Like, I had to do it. I had to just take the shot and, like, just do it. And I did it. I told them to give me the shot, and it didn't sink in until the nurse walked in, and she asked me, she was like, are you okay? And I wasn't, you know. Like, that's when I pretty much broke down, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, can we just wait? And then I just came back to reality again. I was like, no, I need to do this. Like this is what I have to do. They gave me the shot, and they told me, like, the shot's gonna work within they said the shot's gonna work within 4 to 5 days. Within 4 and 5 days, you're gonna miscarry, pretty much. You're gonna abort the baby. You're gonna pass everything. And so the next few days I was just bleeding. But the following days, like, and even that day, like, I had this guilt in me. That whole weekend, I had a guilt in me that just only I knew how I was feeling in that moment. And I felt guilty. I kept telling my mom, and I kept telling Junior, like, what if there was a baby in there? What if the baby was developing in the right place, but he was just too small for them to find it? Or like, you know, just all these what ifs. Like, I felt so guilty for taking the shot until Monday came. And the very first day, I could not wait till Monday. I could not wait till Monday to call and get my results for my ACG levels for that morning, the morning before I took the shot. And I called, and they gave me the results, and that made me feel not better, but a lot better about the decision that I had made, because that day my levels had gone down. They didn't go down dramatically, but even if they go down a little bit, they're not supposed to go down at all when you're pregnant. And that made me feel like, okay, like I made the right choice. Like the doctor was right. This wasn't a viable pregnancy. And that's kind of what made me feel a little bit more at peace with my decision and everything that happened. And this was on Monday, and then on Tuesday, exactly 4 days after they gave me the shot, Tuesday evening around 5:30, I started feeling like gushes, like just gushes of blood coming out. And I was wearing a pad, obviously, because I had been bleeding already, but it was like if I was on my period, like it wasn't that bad. And that's the day that it actually happened. And it was the day that I actually saw like and I felt like a huge clot just come out. And it was when I realized, like, you know, I panicked, and I was like, you know, I didn't know, you know, if there was a baby in that. Like, I don't know, like, I didn't know what to think. I was just so scared, and I panicked, and I was crying, and it was just like a really, it's definitely something that I'm never gonna forget ever. And since that day, I have like the process has been pretty much happening. Like right now, it's already better. I can wear regular pads and everything, but the first few days was just really bad. I was even thinking about going back into the ER because I didn't think if so much blood was normal. But I called, and they said that it was normal as long as I didn't have a fever or anything like that, that it would be fine, and that it should get better within 1 or 2 days. And it did. And you guys, I felt like it was important for me to share this story with you guys, not so you guys can feel sorry for me. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I'm not doing this for that reason. I'm not doing it for attention. I'm not doing it for anything. And this is why I was so nervous to make this video, and why I contemplated it so much. But I felt like I owed you guys an explanation, because I was so excited. Like, you guys could see it if you go back to the last video that I posted regarding my TTC. I was so excited. I was so pumped to share the smoothie with you guys, to share what I had done, because it worked. I actually got pregnant. And then this happens, you know, and I leave a lot of you guys wondering. Like, a lot of you guys even commented on that video, like, oh, I think you're gonna, you know, surprise us and tell us that you're pregnant. Like, you know, you sound, you know, we think you're pregnant or whatever. And then I get people messaging me like, oh my God, I saw your video. I hope you're pregnant. I hope that's what you're going to talk about. And then this happens, you know, and I thought about doing videos along the way so that I wouldn't forget like details, leave out details, you know, and be able to talk to you guys about it. But I couldn't, you guys. I just couldn't. I could not pull myself together to make a video. That's why I decided to wait until I felt just a little bit better, because I could not talk about this without crying before. I could not talk about it without, you know, crying. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just share this with you guys and let you guys know that this is what happened. I don't know if I should say, you know, I had a miscarriage. I lost my baby. I don't know. I don't know what I should call it, because I didn't get like a concrete answer. It was just an assumption that my baby was growing in the fallopian tubes. Now, I think that is actually true. I think that my baby was developing, and it was just developing in the fallopian tubes, because the way that the abortion happened, the day that it happened, the miscarriage, like everything that I saw, like it just made me believe that there was something forming in there, you know, like there really was. Like there's no way that there wasn't. Like I don't know, it was just like there's no way that there was nothing growing in there. Like I truly believe that there was something growing in me. It just was not growing in the right place. And yeah, I just felt like I owed you guys, not that I owed you guys an explanation, but I feel like it was important for me to share this with you guys, because I want to be nothing but honest with you guys. I just feel like I couldn't just go on without addressing this. Like I couldn't just act like nothing happened, you know? Like I feel like I have to address it, close this page, and be able to move on, you know? So yeah, you guys, that is what happened. I'm going to show you guys the very first ultrasound that they did, which was when they told me that I was about 4 weeks, which is this one. How there's a gestational sac. There's a gestational sac. And then this is the very last. This ultrasound was on November 13th. This ultrasound was 3 weeks later, almost a month. This was on December 6th, which is 3 weeks. 3 weeks later. 4, 5, 6, 7, which I was supposed to be about 7 weeks here. And this is what it looked like. So it was empty. There was nothing in there. These are just two pictures. 2 pictures of the ultrasound with nothing in there. And yeah, you guys, that's pretty much it. That's all I have for you guys today. And yeah.